The remains of a Korean War soldier are brought back home.
Senators weighing whether or not to overhaul the nation's election system. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington with more on where the bill stands coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Albee. It's been more than a year since the pandemic first hit the 4 states, and in that time, doctors have learned a lot about the virus. KOAM's Zach Dodge has why one thinks it's important to talk about it, even the basics, more than a year in.
From how the coronavirus spreads and the symptoms that come with it,
fevers, headache, chills, fatigue,
to the long-term impacts,
COVID has weakened the muscle cells themselves,
and the knowledge that's brought about the evolution of treatments.
This past 18 months has been all about this grand experiment of trying to find out what are effective treatments and what is a waste of time.
Healthcare professionals like Dr. Rob McNabb have learned a lot about the virus over the past 18 months. Now he's passing that info along to residents like Marjorie Ellis.
I have known some that have passed away, and so, that makes you very conscientious, I guess you could say, about the disease.
But with slews of information available online and otherwise about the virus, why talk about the basics more than a year in?
Some of it's accurate and some of it's inaccurate. And I think that the most important thing for me is to talk to people that are who I would describe as vaccine hesitant. They're not against vaccinations, but they're cautious, and rightly so. How can you make good decisions with poor information?
He hopes that the good info he gives this group will spread as they have conversations with their friends and family, especially now as vaccinations slow and hospitalizations increase, and as the Delta variant of the virus hits the state.
That's the best way, word of mouth, to be able to get good information out to the community. Because if you are at high risk and you're hesitant to get that vaccine, you're the person that I really want to find and talk to.
In Joplin, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Freeman's Advantage is Freeman's wellness program for adults 50 and older. The U.S. hits another milestone in the vaccine rollout as more adults get their shots. Public health officials are now ramping up efforts to get younger Americans vaccinated. Fox News correspondent Steve Harrigan has more.
More than 150 million Americans are now fully vaccinated against COVID-19. The White House announcing Tuesday more than 70% of people aged 30 or older have received at least one shot. Officials expect to reach that threshold for Americans 27 or older by Independence Day.
We got here because the president treated this as a wartime effort, built a whole of government response to defeat the pandemic, and mobilize state and local governments.
But the U.S. is set to fall short of President Biden's goal of giving 70% of adults at least one dose by July 4th. Instead, officials are touting the pace of the country's reopening. On Tuesday, Michigan became the latest state to reopen at full capacity after 15 months of restrictions.
We're going to be able to start giving people that maybe for the last year and a half have been cooped up in their homes that sense of humanity, of joy, of connecting with people.
Meanwhile, public health officials are redoubling their efforts to get younger Americans vaccinated. CDC data show roughly 38% of people aged 18 to 29 received at least one shot, compared to 80% of older adults. The slow vaccination rate raising concerns the more transmissible Delta variant could spread.
It's more important than ever to get vaccinated now to stop the chain of infection, the chain of mutations that could lead to a more dangerous variant.
The CDC expects the Delta variant will become the dominant one in the U.S. In Atlanta, Steve Harrigan, Fox News.
Beautiful evening. Meteorologist Nick Kelly joining us now.
Absolutely, Jordan. We had a beautiful day on top of the evening that we're still seeing from 7th and Rangeline. But the numbers were quite interesting today. This low of 53, that actually ties the record low set back in 1992, but we catapulted into the mid-80s, 84 to be exact, at Joplin Regional this afternoon. We have been dry on the radar all day long, mostly sunny all day long, and that's where we're going to stay as we go through the overnight. Quick check of temperatures has us mainly in the mid-70s at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, and a quick look at the day ahead. It's going to turn a bit chilly, but not as chilly as this morning. We'll drop back into the lower 60s, maybe a little more cloud cover by tomorrow afternoon, Jordan, but we'll be back in the mid-80s, a comfy day again tomorrow, but heat is wanting to come back in. We'll break down the forecast here in a bit.
I don't like it.
Oh, well.
I have to tell you, yeah, I don't have a choice. Nick Kelly, thank you. Key vote took place today in the Senate. Lawmakers held a vote on the For the People Act, a sweeping voting rights bill central to both the White House and Democrats' domestic agenda. Republicans called it a power grab, however, and did everything they could to stop it from passing. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard has details now from Washington.
This fight is not over, no matter the outcome today.
Tuesday in the Senate, lawmakers voting whether to begin debate on the For the People Act, a voting rights bill pushed by Democrats and the president, who tweeted, "Send it to my desk." However, the bill failing to get enough votes to move forward.
They're so afraid of what that debate will show that this is not election integrity, but this is voter suppression.
Republicans call the bill federal overreach.
Stop the partisan power grab.
A no vote means the bill will not advance, but Democrats vow it won't be the end of their push to overhaul the nation's election system.
This is not dead. This is not dead.
Republicans argue each state should be in charge of their elections, not the federal government.
We can't do it. We don't have it's not feasible.
Democrats point to recent legislation in Republican-led states which have come under fire for allegations they disenfranchise minority voters.
The biggest lie being told in American politics in recent weeks has been that the states are involved in a systematic effort to suppress the vote.
Currently, the Senate is evenly split. Many bills need 60 votes to begin consideration, let alone pass. Democratic Senators Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin have opposed removing that 60-vote threshold, or what's called the filibuster. Senator Sinema, in an op-ed in the Washington Post, said, quote, "The filibuster compels moderation and helps protect the country from wild swings between opposing policy poles." Senator Sinema also went on to say eliminating the filibuster would lead to temporary victories, especially if Republicans regain majority in 2022. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
A four-state hero returns home. Sergeant Lloyd Ellenbaugh's remains were identified last year after he was reported missing in action in Korea during fighting in a reservoir there. Sergeant Ellenbaugh's cremains were flown into the Tulsa airport today and were escorted by members of the Warriors Watch Riders to Ulmer Funeral Home in Carthage.
All of them are difficult because we all served one way or another. For all of us, they're a little bit difficult, but the honor takes over for that difficulty, and the honor in getting to do it.
Law enforcement also joined in on the escort for Sergeant Ellenbaugh. KOAM News at 9 and Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. Herschel Brown served in the U.S. Army from 1943 to 1944. Native of McCune, Kansas, Brown was stationed in Alaska. And we are proud to thank Private First Class Herschel Brown. He's tonight's four-state hero. Nick is next with a complete look at the forecast, and a bit later, local softball players getting a chance to impress college coaches from all levels at Missouri Southern. Go have those details in sports.
Warm once again, sure, but we kept that humidity nice and low, a feat that's pretty hard to pull off late in the month of June on a normal basis, but we did it today, so not only did it feel nice across the area, it looked nice with a mostly sunny time last from start to finish, courtesy of Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, looking outside of Seneca, Missouri. And the temperatures were quite interesting, certainly over the past 36 hours or so. I might have to readjust these numbers, but they don't lie themselves. We had to top out in the mid-70s yesterday afternoon, but after we dropped back to 53, which tied the record low this morning, as we catapulted back into the lower to middle 80s all across the board. Fortunately, we stayed warm with the humidity at least still tolerable for our Wednesday. The heat's going to make a quick return, though, for Thursday and Friday, but we're going to temper that heat back again by this weekend, especially with our next storm system in here. Will probably be some good rain and thunderstorm chances to go along with it. For now, though, looking great from 7th and Rangeline. A beautiful shot from the east side of town. 74 at the airport and downtown with the south breeze at about 8 miles per hour. The dew point still not looking bad, sitting at 54 degrees. Everybody sitting nicely at the 9 o'clock hour temperature-wise, between 70 and 75 degrees. But these dew points, again, they have been amazing because, again, it's rare to pull off a Tuesday, June evening, late June evening, with dew points mainly in the 50s. That is definitely pleasant, if not refreshing, certainly compared to where we've been over the past week or so with that early preview of sweltering summer heat and humidity. We've had nothing to keep an eye on all evening long, but I am keeping an eye on thunderstorms across parts of Nebraska and Iowa. I still don't think any of those will make it here. They're going to stay mainly near the stationary front, a very weak one that parks just to the north. But I've got a warm front I'm watching to the south. That's going to try to warm things up for the next few days. This cold front in Canada, that's our weekend storm system. But in the short term, in the upper levels, this upper ridge is going to try and build back in. It's going to keep us in the 80s tomorrow, but it could, so this actually will push us back into the 90s by the time we get the weekend underway. In the short term, though, I think we're still looking pretty good. Still thinking any of the thunderstorms out in Nebraska and Iowa will stay away from us. That means we're quiet for the morning ahead and for much of the day ahead, with maybe a little cloud cover by the afternoon. But again, not looking at a bad day whatsoever. 62 in the morning, 80 by noon, a high near 86, but keep an eye on that window. It starts light in the morning out of the south at 5 to 10, but we'll kick it up to 10 to 20 as we go into your Wednesday afternoon. As we go into Wednesday night, Thursday morning, maybe a chance for a couple of thunderstorms to come on through, but we'll hold off on any, let's say, decent thunderstorm chances until we get into, let's say, Thursday afternoon. But that is certainly when we're going to see highs back near 90 degrees. In fact, I think we'll hit 92 on Thursday, 93 on Friday. Again, those are the only 2 days we have to deal with the summer heat and humidity, because once this rain chances really ramp up on Saturday, Jordan, that will keep temperatures in the mid-80s and lows in the 60s as we go through the weekend into early next week as well.
Again, absolutely gorgeous evening tonight. Perfect in my opinion.
I know, I got to turn that camera around more to the west, see if that sun's still up by the time we come back.
Gorgeous. All right, Nick Kelly, thank you so much. Catch you in a little bit. 30-foot high Confederate monument in front of a Georgia courthouse was taken down last year. Now the Sons of Confederate Veterans Group is suing. Fox's Robert DiRienzo has this story.
We believe that the monument is an important and significant memorial to the Confederate veterans.
Martin O'Toole with the Georgia division of the Sons of Confederate Veterans argues that a DeKalb County judge wasn't following the law when he declared the Confederate monument in Decatur Square a public nuisance last summer.
The public nuisance is defined in Georgia law. It has to be offensive to everybody, not just some people, not even a majority of people. Everyone must be offended.
Activists who helped lead the calls to bring it down think there was enough support in the community to get rid of it.
There was enough outrage and enough threat to people's safety that the judge made the decision that was in the best interest of the overall community.
Fonta High of the Beacon Hill Black Alliance for Human Rights said given the current political climate, she was not surprised to hear about the lawsuit.
Honestly, it's what I anticipated. Just given the current environment, what's happening in the state of Georgia, what's happening in education, and the fight with critical race theory, so it's not at all surprising.
High is also part of a movement calling for another memorial in the park to come down, which commemorates the removal of indigenous people. That was put up by the United Daughters of the Confederacy in the early 1900s.
The Civil War was about my ancestors remaining enslaved, and that's not a story we want to support in the city of Decatur.
O'Toole claims he just wants to honor his ancestors. He says the outcome of this lawsuit will have implications across the state.
We think that this monument fight here in Decatur and DeKalb is significant because if we can win here, that will send a message across the entire state of Georgia.
Coming up, a post-COVID economy.
Congressional lawmakers heard from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell today, who testified on the state of the U.S. economy. I'm Madla Rivera in Washington with more on what he had to say about the nation's COVID recovery coming up.
In new testimony today on Capitol Hill, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said the U.S. economy is recovering, but he warned the coronavirus pandemic remains a threat. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera is in Washington with the latest on Powell's outlook.
The pandemic continues to pose risks to the economic outlook.
In his opening remarks, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell told Congress the U.S. economy is improving thanks to an increase in vaccinations and government support, but says it still has a ways to go.
The pace of vaccinations has slowed, and new strains of the virus remain a risk.
Powell's warning comes as the Biden administration says it won't reach its aspirational goal of getting 70% of adult Americans partially vaccinated by July 4th. There are other risks, too. Price hikes and finding workers are a concern.
Every single employer I talk to tells me they can't find people to work. What do you think about all these policy ideas from the Democrats?
Again, it's not my job.
No, but your job is stable employment and low inflation. Right now we have 9 million job openings and inflation that's went up 5 months in a row. So something has to give.
Lawmakers, meanwhile, are debating whether more help is needed for Americans and how large to make the American Jobs Plan. While the president has proposed a $4 trillion economic agenda, a bipartisan group of 21 lawmakers remain in talks over an infrastructure plan that calls for just $579 billion in new spending.
We have a lot of needs in our country. We have a good bipartisan bill we're working on.
Since March 2020, the Department of Education has been giving federal student loan borrowers the option of pausing their bills without interest accruing. Come October, payments will resume unless an extension is granted. In Washington, Mallory Rivera, Fox News.
Just ahead, going to see how a treatment for chronic pain is now being used for veterans with PTSD. An injectable treatment used on chronic pain patients is now being used on some veterans with PTSD. And as Fox's Jordan Bowen in Tampa, Florida reports, it's showing promising results.
The treatment takes just minutes, but can offer a lifetime of relief.
For me, I suddenly wasn't aggressive. I suddenly wasn't hypervigilant. I just didn't have that feeling anymore. And that's when I knew it was working.
James Razone is a veteran and PTSD survivor who served in a combat zone in Iraq for 3.5 years. He worked as a human intelligence collector for the U.S. Air Force, where he identified insurgent groups and interrogated terrorists.
It was hard to go from a mission-focused job to no mission-focused. And for me, the PTSD really settled in and started to become a problem for me when my life slowed down.
Razone tried numerous treatments, from talk therapy to pharmaceutical drugs, but nothing seemed to help. Then he heard about stellate ganglion block, or SGB. It's a procedure that involves injecting anesthetic into the neck, specifically around the main nerve that controls the fight-or-flight response. For decades, it's been used to treat chronic pain, but now a small number of doctors across the country are using it to treat PTSD.
Patients with PTSD who have mild and moderate symptoms seem to be responding really well to these treatments.
Tampa Dr. Arun Kalava is one of them. He's an ABA board-certified anesthesiologist, and for the last 2 years has been using SGB to treat PTSD survivors.
There's not many treatment modalities available that people can use to get superior results.
The kind of results Razone says he's never seen with any other treatment.
It's like you have a lot of noise going on in your head and all around you, and then suddenly everything becomes quiet.
The process begins with an ultrasound, giving Dr. Kalava real-time feedback on how to precisely position the needle. The anesthetic acts as a blocker, reducing nerve impulses and allowing the part of the brain that controls the fight-or-flight response to essentially reset.
With this nerve block, what we're trying to do is cut down the activity significantly where the symptoms are milder or very tolerable.
As Dr. Kalava explains, he never expected he would be treating veterans with PTSD.
I'm just trying to serve the need to the best of my abilities because I have the skills already. I'm just using those skills to help a different subset of patients which I usually do not encounter in my practice.
For Razone, his newfound relief is something he hopes others like him can soon find as well. Reporting in Tampa, Jordan Bowen, Fox 13 News.
Dr. Kalava says relief for SGB treatment can last anywhere between a few months and a few years. All right, seems like we all have our own proven method of getting rid of those hiccups, including waiting them out. But one company says science backs up their product meant to quickly get rid of them. Yeah, go learn more when we come back. Everyone has their own trick believed to stop those pesky hiccups, but one company says they have the cure. That thing right there. A group of scientists claim your hiccup relief lies in the forced inspiratory suction and swallow tool. This device, sold by the company Hic Away, H-I-C-C Away, works like a straw, requiring the hiccuper to place it in a cup of water and suck. Customers claim the device cured their hiccups in about 2 big sips. The so-called miracle hiccup reliever can be purchased for about $14. Alex. I just asked for Alex's name during the commercial, by the way, because I'll be honest, I didn't know your name. I'm sorry, Alex. That's first and foremost. I'm sorry I didn't know your name. He says what works for him is taking a glass of water when you're standing upright, right? Then swallowing the water when you're upside down. It's worked every time for him. I have to try that. All right, Alex, thank you so much. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming away. The Joplin School Board meeting to decide on their next budget, including the future Dover Hill Elementary. Also, a Colorado community mourning the loss of a police officer killed in the line of duty. Joplin School Board met tonight to approve the budget for the next fiscal year. That budget includes about $121 million in expenses and $91.9 million in revenue. The biggest increase in expenditures are the bonds for the new Dover Hill Elementary School and the additions at Kelsey Norman. $26.4 million was approved by voters for the school projects, but only about $2 million of that was spent in the last fiscal year. A surprise ride from a stranger has completely changed an Oklahoma man's life. He used to walk 17 miles a day to and from work. But as Fox's Rebecca Pryor explains, one man's act of kindness has raised enough money to get a man in need a new set of wheels.
I really don't care if it gets tiring.
Dante Franklin is the type of guy who always goes the extra mile.
And I just have to keep pushing.
Actually, it's usually about 17 miles to be exact.
I mean, I don't like walking at all, I don't, but I just walk just to make my family proud.
Because he rarely has a ride, to get to work on time as a cook at the Buffalo Wild Wings on the other side of town, Dante has to leave his house about 3 hours before his shift even starts. And yet,
I haven't missed a shift at all.
The job means too much to him. Much of his motivation coming from his mom, who sadly no longer walks this earth.
She passed away when I was 16 years old. She had hepatitis C, and after she passed away, it's just been hard.
But last week, on a day the Oklahoma heat was relentlessly blazing down, a stranger offered to pick him up and ended up turning his life around.
I'm like, man, he's walking a long way.
Impressed by Dante's dedication, Michael Lynn posted about his story on Facebook. It was then shared more than 1,000 times and in a matter of days inspired the Moore community to donate more than $26,000. More than enough for Dante to buy a car.
If it could just make one person go help someone else, that's all that matters.
I can really help my family with this. No other words can explain it. It's just a blessing, really.
And the blessings just keep rolling in. A local bike club also surprising him with a new set of wheels to hold him over until he can get his driver's license. Meaning his long walks to work are now long behind him. And he's even gained a new friend.
I think we need to keep each other.
For the road ahead. Rebecca Pryor.
Love this guy like my own.
Fox 25 News.
Awesome story. All right, McDonald's is rolling out a new loyalty program next month. Customers are going to receive points for every dollar they spend on qualifying purchases. McDonald's has been testing the rewards program in some markets. It launches nationally, however, July 8th. Community in Colorado was paying their respects to a fallen officer who died in the line of duty. Investigators say Arvada police officer Gordon Beasley was responding to a call of a suspicious incident yesterday when he was hit by gunfire. Investigators say Officer Beasley and a second man were killed. A third person believed to be the shooter was also found dead. Beasley was a 19-year veteran of the Arvada Police Department. Police say he was a school resource officer and was working patrol while school was out for the summer. More territories in Afghanistan are now being overrun by Taliban forces as the terrorist group is launching attacks in an effort to regain a foothold in the Middle East. Fox News correspondent Jackie Bonius has more on the U.S. response and if it could impact the withdrawal process as American troops are continuing to leave this region.
The Taliban is gaining more control in Afghanistan as U.S. efforts to withdraw from the region continue, causing military officials to re-examine the pace that they're leaving the Middle East.
That schedule could fluctuate and change as conditions change too.
President Biden originally setting a final withdrawal date of September 11th. And the Pentagon says the defense secretary is monitoring the pullout closely.
Every day, the situation in Afghanistan changes as the Taliban continue to conduct these attacks.
So far, since the U.S. began withdrawing a few months ago, the Taliban has begun stepping up efforts to retake more than 36 Afghan districts, inflicting casualties on the local Afghan fighters trying to push them back, as families caught in the middle are preparing to escape.
The situation in Kunduz is very bad. It is insecure. There are so many wounded victims in hospital. I'm going to Zakil to get my family out of there and go somewhere where it is safe.
But the Pentagon suggests Taliban resurgence won't impact the overall U.S. withdrawal, suggesting two things are very clear when it comes to leaving.
One, we will complete the withdrawal of all U.S. forces out of Afghanistan, with the exception of those that will be left to protect the diplomatic presence. And two, that it will be done before early September, as per the Commander-in-Chief's orders.
And Afghanistan's former president recently said it's best if all U.S. troops leave. The Pentagon says the U.S. aims to still support the country financially once a withdrawal is complete. Jack Ibanez, Fox News.
A bit later, another dangerous wildfire season.
Record high temperatures throughout the West are helping to fuel a series of out-of-control wildfires. I'm Alicia Cunha in Denver, and I'll have the details coming up.
Pretty nice day. That's hard to say on the usual basis late in the month of June, but that was exactly what we saw for our Tuesday, with mostly sunny skies, a chilly start, but a nice jump back into the 80s today. Nice time lapse from Indigo Skies, showing mostly clear skies all day long outside of Seneca, Missouri. As far as the numbers go, we were definitely warm, up below normal. Normally we should be at 88 for this time of the year, but we hit a high of 84 degrees today. Just a little bit warmer tomorrow, edging closer to normal, but we'll still be in the mid 80s as we see the thermometer slowly inch up over the next few days at least. Right now, still seeing some of the setting sun's rays, giving a nice color to the western horizon out of Joplin. 74 degrees, south breeze at 8. But the dew point, look at that number, 54 degrees. We practically beg for numbers like that, especially during a late June night around here. Everyone's in the lower and the middle 70s across the board, and everybody is enjoying amazing dew points. It's nice to see these low in the 50s overall compared to when we were pushing the top of the scale last week, where it was definitely muggy, if not soupy outside. But this refreshing air mass remains in place for tonight as lows drop back into the lower 60s. So not quite as chilly, thankfully, as it was this morning. Mostly clear skies here. We don't have anything going on. Still keeping an eye on thunderstorms coming out of Iowa, including a little decaying batch trying to work out in Nebraska. I still don't think those will make it here. So we'll keep things quiet for the overnight. Two things I'm keeping an eye on at the surface, though. This one front to our southwest, that's going to help to warm temperatures up for the next few days. And this cold front in Canada, that's our weekend storm system. That'll bring in a better shot for rain and another reinforcing shot of milder air. So at the jet stream level, we're still on the cool side of the jet, but this upper ridge is trying to build back in over the next few days, and we will see that result in the rise in our thermometer as we go throughout the course of the next few days. As far as the overnight hours are concerned, we'll just keep things mostly clear. Still think any of the storms up north stay up north, so we're dry to start Wednesday morning out. Lows dropping back mainly into the 60s, but tomorrow afternoon, maybe a little bit more in the way of cloud cover, but temperatures still look pretty good, and I think the dew points will still be okay, maybe lower to middle 60s, so a slight bump in that department, but 62 in the morning, 80 by noon, highs near 86 with a south wind during the day at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Going into your Thursday morning, wouldn't be surprised if we had a stray thunderstorm or two try to clip us, but I think any thunderstorm chances for our Thursday will hold off until the afternoon, but we'll definitely be heating back up with highs at least in the lower 90s as this upper ridge tries to build back in. It's going to be a temporary thing, though, because once we get past Friday, that ridge gets shunted back to the south while our next storm system brings in definitely a better shot for rain and thunderstorms, and that will certainly bump temperatures back down again as we go through the weekend. Let's go 86 on your Wednesday, 92 Thursday, 78 for a sweltering start Friday morning before we top out at 93, but The rest of the weekend and early next week, Jordan, temperature-wise, we look okay again. Highs in the mid-80s.
The heat returned. The cool was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, if only.
Nick Kelly, thank you. Hey, you probably noticed our new graphics, but they're on the bottom there. You might have noticed also something that says KOAM Plus. It's a new streaming service. KOAM Plus is an extension of our TV stations and website where you can get all the top local and regional stories, weather and sports, all in one place. You can find KOAM Plus on Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Coming up in sports, the Joplin Outlaws aiming to stay in first place in the Mink League South Division. Also, Pittsburgh American Legion baseball hitting the field against Moran. Jacob Leonard has that and more next.
The Joplin Outlaws are back on the field tonight on the road against the Jeff City Renegades. Coming into the day, the Outlaws are tied for first place in the Mink League South Division with a 9-7 overall record. Jeff City just one game behind Joplin for the top spot in the South. Tonight's game in the bottom of the 8th, Outlaws lead at 7-2. Jack O'Brien throws 6 2/3 for Joplin, allowing 1 earned run and striking out 7. American Legion ball here. Pittsburgh posts 64 at home against Moran. Off the bat of Jaron Morrison here, first pitch of the game. All the way to the wall in right center. Morrison around second, in there for the triple. A Wyatt Ard. They'll bring him home a few minutes later. Ard through the left side. Morrison comes home. It's 1-0 Moran. After that, though, all Pittsburgh. Trevor Amershek in the bottom of the first. RBI single to right. Post 64 goes up 5-1 after one. And they really put it away in the second. Amershek again, this time into right. Pittsburgh gets 14 runs in the second. Amershek drives in 5 and just 2 at bats. Post 64 rolls by Moran in this one, 19-1. Missouri Southern softball hosts a college coaches skills camp today at the Pat Lapierre softball complex. Now, there were about 80 players at camp today. The CCSC is an individual skills-based camp, giving local players a chance to work on all aspects of the game and get feedback from college coaches at different levels, from junior college to Division I. It's also a chance for those coaches to check out potential recruits and a chance for Missouri Southern to show off their stuff.
Local, from far away, there's kids from Missouri, kids from Texas here. Just to get them on our campus and show off our facilities is really big. CCSC does a great job with their camps, and it's just nice to be able to host a good company and have a really good turnout.
We're trying to get as many local prospects out and run them through a bunch of drill work and let them be seen by a lot of different college coaches. We have junior college, Division II, Division I, NAIA. Everybody's out here trying to get back from the off-COVID year that everybody missed out on recruiting.
The Kansas City Royals open a 3-game series with the New York Yankees tonight. Kansas City just took 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox, but they've lost 7 of their last 9 and 12 of their last 15. Now this one, game 1 of a 10-game road trip for the Royals. Luke Voigt right off the bat for New York. Solo home run, his second of the season. Yankees up 1-0. Now in the second, check out some defense from Kansas City here. Michael Taylor, diving grab on the Brett Gardner hit. At the top of the 4th, it's 2-1 Yankees. Ryan O'Hearn, solo homer, ties the game up at 2. Right now, Kansas City leads at 6-5 in the bottom of the 9th. As for the St. Louis Cardinals, they got an interleague matchup tonight against the Tigers. That one is final. Cards fall 8-2. Two teams wrap up the 2-game set at 12:10 tomorrow afternoon. That's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
Wildfires erupt across parts of the West as triple-digit temperatures are once again in the forecast for the region. Fox News senior correspondent Alicia Acuna has more from Denver.
The western wildfire season is well underway, with crews in multiple states trying to get containment as a major heat wave continues. In Utah, mandatory evacuations have been ordered as the flat fire continues to spread, burning more than 14,000 acres since it began last week. Fire officials are now issuing new restrictions, including banning campfires and fireworks, while anxious locals wait to see if their homes can be saved.
There was, what are those called, fire tornadoes going on in the billowing smoke. You could see it spiraling up and going crazy, and that's when it was moving fast.
Further south in Arizona, crews are fighting more than 20 active fires, including the Telegraph Fire, which has burned through 180,000 acres, and the Backbone Fire, which prompted the evacuations of at least 2 towns north of Phoenix. Local businesses and community groups now chipping in to help hundreds of displaced residents.
It's community. It's what we all do around here. We all just step up to help each other. You know, everybody, Pine and Strawberry is a part of our community.
And this heat wave has been baking much of the area for the past week, is now expected to settle over Northern California and the Pacific Northwest, bringing triple-digit temperatures there and prompting new warnings from health officials.
People that already have pre-existing medical history, you know, they can get really sick when it's really hot, and if they don't have adequate cooling in their home, even small things like that can just really affect their health.
Forecasters say the heat dome causing the high temperatures should dissipate next week. In Denver, Alicia Acuna, Fox News.
A well-known chef guest stars as judge on MasterChef. Gonna get a preview when we come back. Another legend joins MasterChef this week as the competition heats up for elimination rounds. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Our first big challenge, only 15 aprons.
15 home cooks made it through auditions, and now it's time for the first elimination challenge on MasterChef Legends.
Thank you very much.
The legend joining them as a guest judge this week is Chef Masaharu Morimoto, who sets the bar high with a monkfish demonstration. Morimoto says he remembers where the contestants are, starting out learning culinary skills at home.
I used to was a home chef like 50 years ago. Not the home chef, but everybody doing from scratch. The training, the copying, and then good sense to it.
He also relates to the experience of putting those skills on TV.
Thinking Iron Chef, how many Iron Chef in the world? Very few. That's why I'm very honored and proud. A lot of people watching the camera and the TV, audience. Oh, I want to be the chef So Bobby Flay, like Morimoto. It's an honor. How many people in the world? Very few. But the other hand, the other face is a lot of stress, and then pressures.
Wow. Amazing.
And he adds his time on the MasterChef set was also a reunion.
I respect so much things about Chef Gordon Ramsay because he's a real chef. He can do everything. And then Chef Sanchez, actually, we did that battle, Iron Chef battle together more than 10 years ago. And then we spoke to each other, oh, let's do. That was, I think, tied. So we talking, oh, let's do rematch. Oh, let's do that. Yes. Thank you.
Find them on MasterChef Legends Wednesday night on Fox. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
And that's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of an endangered lemur species at a zoo in Germany. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.